So you could do acceleration work and deceleration work on both ends.
Okay, so let's show that right now with me. So you take me through a workout on this that would be similar to if I were a speed athlete and I needed to get stronger.
You got it. Whenever you're ready. So this is our highest resistance level. So he's going to be exerting as much force as he can get. We're going to slowly bring him down a notch. Here's level 4. Here's level 3. You can see he's picking up speed now. Here's level 2. And level 1. So as they start to fatigue, you can really decrease that resistance level so they can continue to go. That's a simple press of a button here. So now we just implemented change of direction. Clark is already gassed. It's gonna keep him left and right. He needs to keep it straight. Now, with this technology, the harder he pushes, the harder it's gonna jerk him left to right. So if you were to walk this, he could keep it relatively straight. But if you were to go 100%, he's gonna go 180.
Yep. It doesn't take a lot to get a lot out of it. It's one thing you need to understand. It's not about doing more work. It's about doing the work that you're doing efficiently.
Correct. And that's something you talk about all the time, is you could be in the gym for 2 hours and be inefficient with your workouts, or you could be doing something like this and get it done in 15 minutes.
Or 2.
Exactly. So a little bit on the science behind why there's so much fatigue and why your heart rate gets jacked up with the Smart Sled Pro compared to any other sled out there. Because of the constant torque and tension that we're providing with the motors, the harder you push, the harder it's going to get. Versus a normal sled, you're getting momentum, right? So it's just surface friction. Once you get past that initial surface friction, you're just moving, right? So because you're always fighting against something, that's going to jack your heart rate up. You're not only getting aerobic, but anaerobic strength.
I can attest to that because I'm feeling it right now. This reminds me of if I went out and did a full-on sprint workout.
Right.
And I don't think there's anyone out here who will disagree the effectiveness of a sprint workout. So if I can mimic that with something like this, it just changes it up. It makes it different, makes it fun. And that's the key to exercise, in my opinion. It's not being linear, it's being multifaceted and multi-dimensional, which this Smart Sled Pro is, man.
And that was kind of the point around the design for this. So from, like you said, from the elderly to athletes, right? Athletes, they do all linear motion in the weight room, and then they try to apply that strength in multi-directional movement on the field with no load. So now you have load in multi-directions and you're on doing field work. Now, when you're talking about all the way up to your elderly, you're providing support for your ankles, your knees, your joints, your hips, and them pushing this, going up a hill on change of direction, that's going to strengthen that in a safe manner.
Man, there's so much to unpack here. So let's talk about injury recovery. That's a big thing in the NFL when I was there. You know, everyone's going to compete. That's never an issue. But the number one job of a strength coach or an athletic trainer in an NFL locker room is to get an injured athlete back on the field as quickly as possible.
Right.
What applications do you see with that? So if I had an ACL and I was coming out here, I wouldn't automatically want to go under a load on a squat.
Correct.
I would want to do something that requires my body to be moving, offsetting the load.
Correct.
Right, so talk about that.
So, like you said, you don't want to, number one, you don't want to get under a load after an injury. Even if you've recovered and you feel like you've recovered, it's scary mentally, right? If you've injured your ACL, getting under even 225 for those guys is light, but even that's going to feel scary. And you have a high risk of injury, whether you're deadlifting, squatting, any of the free weight motion. This, the second you stop, it stops. So not only are you getting a load, you're only getting a concentric load, so you're not going to be sore the next day versus eccentrically loading after an injury. But two, it's completely safe. If you feel a little bit of pain, you just stop. And there's no moving you or the machine. Now, when it comes to prehab and injury prevention, that's another thing, right? Because now you're strengthening different modalities of your ankle, knees, and hips in the movement. So when you are moving like that on the field under a high load, you're likely to have stronger joints to prevent any injuries.
So I'll show you an exercise right now that's right on the machine that's prehab, rehab, and triple extension that a lot of the NFL strength guys are looking for in their athletes because it's explosive. So put this on one for me, please.
All right, good.
There we go. So if it were my left knee, for example, I can emphasize that left knee on the drive, on the extension, the full range of motion. And again, it's not under 225 pounds where I can't control it, or I can't stop. It's dangerous. So I know that the smart people in any professional league will see that by itself and go, ooh, that's really cool.
Right.
I could do something similar on a competitor, but not to the degree that I can do this on, because the next level would be adding in
rotation.
A little rotation.
Correct.
Just a teeny bit.
Yep. And not only that is when you're a well-balanced athlete and person, but when you get an athlete, just because they're an athlete doesn't mean they're well-balanced. So immediately when they get on this, if they're not balanced, they're going to be overcorrecting.
Another thing I think is important to point out is not every movement needs to be big and explosive. It needs to be positioned correctly and thoughtful in the application of the desired outcome, the movement. So what I was just doing right here is not a big movement, but I'm positioned in an athletic stance and I'm strengthening myself and popping back, and I could change directions and then boom, boom. So not only because in a situation I'm pushing and pulling a guy to gain an advantage. You can't do this with so many other machines that are out there. Like the more we talk about it, the more stuff comes to me.
Right.
Like that just in and of itself. Like, oh, that's cool. This is a dude, you know? Ha, 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 ha. Gone.
And it's going to move as close to a person as you can get.
Yeah, so I'm here, right? I'm fighting this guy, right? We're going 6 seconds to play, and shut him off and go to the next guy up. Because that's my job as an interior guy. Fight, shut him off, next guy in line, boom, hit him, creating enough.
And then move. Yep.
That's it. Woo! Something else. I know I get a good workout when my nose starts running.